Welcome back. You're listening to Ask the CIO, sponsored by ForgeRock on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is Mike Sorrento, the director of the Defense Manpower Data Center in the Department of Defense. Mike, before break, we were talking a lot about the cloud and the role the cloud computing plays in identity and access management and the bigger role it's playing. And one of the excitements that I hear time and again when I talk to folks from DoD or other agencies, law enforcement agencies, is how the cloud can help with identity management on the tactical edge or just at the edge. And this is huge for DoD for many reasons, whether it's in the continental United States where you have service members who are worried about, okay, who's getting on the base, or when it's even more critical in battlefield where you have to identify the person who's trying to get on a base in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever. Walk me through a little bit of how you guys are thinking about cloud and tactical edge, and then where does ICAM fit in there?
Yeah, Jason, thanks. And it brings up a couple of key points from my perspective. It's an opportunity and a challenge for us, obviously leveraging cloud technologies for core services, but getting out to the tactical edge, really this is all about supporting our warfighters and supporting those who support the warfighters so they can do their mission. But the strong ability to apply techniques that are improving security, that are improving access to information, are really challenged by across the board worldwide bandwidth and connectivity, and those are areas that we're always trying to improve on. We even implement in some cases, across the COCOMs, some really powerful satellite capabilities, and that still can provide some challenges. But obviously being able to validate individuals to get logical access, and as you pointed out, physical access, because we've deployed capabilities worldwide through our physical access control systems, right? And we have a solution behind that as well called the Identity Matching Engine for Security Analysis that helps identify, information that we get almost real time, because it's overnight from FBI and other sources, terrorist screening database, to be able to say against our known identities, is there something that we need to apprehend or hold somebody back from getting access to our base? Like, for example, there's a want or a warrant for their address, but that requires bandwidth and connectivity to keep those feeds of information going. So that's a core service. It's being deployed worldwide, and obviously helps to secure our national interests around the world. The cloud will continue to be a solution and a challenge, because protocols and being able to leverage across different nation states and be able to leverage across the DODIN and using JRSS, but still there are still agreements that need to be in place to be able to leverage all of the services that are being shored up across, whether we're using VPNs or other network protocols to share our services worldwide. So we've got opportunities to make improvement, but what we really want to get is we want to get the war fighter, the kind of basically authenticated into whatever services they need, ongoing, real time, all the time. And so that's a bar that's set pretty high. But if there's any better organization to help do it, the partnership between DoD CIO, DISA, NSA, and DMDC is really what is needed to give our COCOMs, our joint warfighters, what they need to be able to perform their duties with limited or no risk of not having access to the right information at the right time.
If we put bandwidth and connectivity aside just for half a second, which I know it's hard to do when you talk about tactical edge, do you also need light, if you will, not maybe that's not the best word, but light applications? What do you need from the application perspective? What do you need from the identity management capability that has to ride on that low bandwidth, difficult connectivity?
I Jason, really like that question, because it brings up the improvements that we're trying to put out on the identity card online services. So breaking those down into more self-service and self-managed capabilities. So some of this is for the within DoD access, but a lot of it is for those who are accessing services that don't have a CAC card, right? And so part of it is breaking them into microservices and breaking some of these transactions and capabilities into consumable bytes, using mobility platforms, right? And be able to allow individuals or their proxies in some cases get access to make meaningful either updates, changes, or just access to information. And so it's pretty critical, and sometimes access to physical locations too, because that's a key component as we've implemented, the new credential for the CAC, or we call the cake. So the part of the answer to this is, we're making improvements on the services side of it, but we're also breaking down the back end operations to be able to more efficiently process. Essentially what we have is billions of transactions a year. So if you can just kind of put that into context, it might not be Wall Street, but it's really needs industrial power to operate like the stock market. So we have got to re-architect, and we are re-architecting into much more digestible services platform so that we can take transactions both individually or in more complex cases, be able to manage more difficult transactions more efficiently across these different microservice capabilities that we're standing up. So really, it's really driving out a modernization strategy that we can then field more efficiently on the cloud as well, as we take advantage of maybe services that we currently have built, but the cloud offers them. And then we can consume those as part of the platforms that we acquire. And so that's what we're looking at every piece of our not only infrastructure, but the services we provide externally.
This tags us back, I think, to the beginning of our conversation when you mentioned microservices as well. That way, by breaking them down into these smaller, easier to digest, easier to use services, and then also easier to change, update, or even move. If you wanted to say, okay, we're going to take that microservice and keep it localized, that is possible versus everything having to be back at a data center or at a cloud somewhere that is not as, that could impact organizations, bases, service members on low bandwidth. Do I have that? Is that the thinking? Do I have that right?
You do have that right. And I think a key factor, DMDC was really established to provide access decisions to benefits. And what we have extended it to is the identity management and the ICAM capabilities. And so those things are sort of coupled together in our infrastructure. And as we have grown in requirements over time, the need to kind of rethink that architecture, right, that we started with, is what it will provide a much more agile framework for our customer base, listening to their needs and being able to provide them with, kind of point in service, right? The point of service capabilities that I think we all are used to getting today with our mobile devices and with our computers at home, or whether it's something that you're accessing at a kiosk somewhere. We've got to come up with the mechanisms to provide more options for people to get access to their things that they want access to.
We're about to hit another break, but it just occurred to me, I just want to hit upon it quickly. You bring up mobile devices. Does that add another level of complexity for DMDC as tablets and smartphones and the like are much more part of our everyday life, and they have been for quite a while, but even more so now today? Does that add a level of complexity for you all?
It does, in the sense of, as we move forward as a department for the bring your own device models and how we support the DISA services. And really it comes back to DISA is providing those access and those credentials that are sort of the soft credentials, like the derived credentials. And that piece of it, though, is fed from the data attribute models that DMDC supports. So as we become more intelligent around what types of data attributes we want to leverage across the platform and what they need to look like and the syntax and the ontologies, we're going to have to be agile enough to support those changes as they occur to improve the security and the ability to ensure mobility platforms are continued to be supported in an evolving way. Because I see tremendous, we all know what it says about mobility platforms and mobility capabilities. The growth is astronomical, and I would expect the security frameworks to have to improve to catch up and maintain that warp speed. And we'll have to be at the absolute center of those discussions when it comes to changes at the back end operation side of it.
You bring up BYOD. We could spend the whole discussion here probably talking about the challenges of bringing your own device. But let's take a quick break. When we come back, we can finish up our conversation. My guest today is Mike Sorrento, the director of the Defense Manpower Data Center in the Department of Defense. I'm Jason Miller, and you're listening to Ask the CIO, sponsored by ForgeRock on Federal News Network.